Меня зовут Сергей Латихов, я являюсь
I
генеральным
introduce
директором.
myself. I'm Sergei Latyukhov. I am the National Union of Poultry Producers Director General. I will moderate the roundtable on halal product certification. First of all, I'd like to say that despite the fact that I represent poultry industry, today we're going to speak about all the sectors of agriculture. We'll speak about not only of the livestock production, but we'll speak about all other sectors which are ready to supply its products to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And therefore, if I focus on my favorite poultry industry, just excuse me, and Dmitry Krasnov will bring me back on track. Some housekeeping issues about the schedule. By default, you don't have any specific channel selected. On the bar below, you may find a symbol for translation. So if you are using your mobile devices to get connected to us, you may select the translation language. Our participants from Saudi Arabia are going to speak Arabic and English. Those who are not fluent in those two languages, you may choose the Russian language and feel at ease there in the framework of our event. So, dear colleagues, I assume that we can get started. We all are, for the second year, living amid the COVID-19 and such limitations and confinements. The whole of the globe is living through the pandemic or even post-pandemic restrictions. Some of our participants, including Yosef Salem Al-Harbi, could see with their own eyes how this country started our journey through the pandemic. Last February, we're all without medical masks. We'll have antibodies. Some of us got antibodies for natural causes. Others got a jab, an injection, got vaccinated. So we are doing very well. So I wish everyone to stay healthy. And I suggest that we get started, dear colleagues. The agenda is quite busy. We have the top ranking among our speakers. All the companies which planned to accede to the market of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I hope will get all the necessary information in order to start that process. As was said before, during today's plenary session, the trade volume in agriculture between Russia and Saudi Arabia almost doubled, increasing by 98% following the results of 2020 against 2019. And actually, in terms of value, is estimated at $679 million. Saudi Arabia is among the priority in terms of the Russian agriculture exports. And still, let me focus on my favorite poultry industry. This is the market number 2 for us, just for different sectorial companies and industrial unions, such as the Dairy Products Union and Confectionery Union. And the main objective of today's roundtable is to explain to all the stakeholders how they can get certified to supply their products to Saudi Arabia, what they have to know about that in order to supply their products. And I'm sure that this roundtable would be very interesting for the meat, dairy, and other industries. Well, I would like to introduce to you our main speakers for today's roundtable. My name is Sergei Latyukhov. I will moderate this roundtable. Along with us is Dmitry Krasnov, Director of the Federal Center for Agro-Export and co-organizer of that event. That's a person who invested a lot of efforts, time, and money in order to make this business and this roundtable come true. I'm glad that we can welcome Mr. Ahmed Al-Butai. We met him in the framework of Los Gala Food, along with a delegation from the Ministry of Agriculture. Mr. Al-Butairi is Director General of the Accreditation Services Director. Mr. Brahim, head of the Accreditation Center. Aisha Folata, head of the Halal Division, Accreditation Center for the Gulf region. Mr. Dr. Yosef Salem Al-Harbi, Director of Halal Center Operations Sector, the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, SFDA, which provides us with the sanitary and veterinary permits and who supported us greatly when, in the framework of the upcoming pandemic, we retained our inflow of halal products to Saudi Arabia, and we managed to accredit and certify a number of other enterprises. With us is advisor to the director of Rossельхознадзор, of the Russian agricultural watchdog, Artyom Daushev, and Mr. Belov, Director General of National Dairy Producers Union, and Vyacheslav Lashmankin, Executive Director of the Association of Confectionery Enterprises, ASKOND. And I'm glad to see Mr. Rashid Al-Rumani, Business Development Director, TUV Austria partner. Rashid, I think, will tell us about the opportunities which will be provided to our companies if they meet the requirements and standards set by Saudi Arabia so that they could work through the so-called green corridors. And also we welcome Aydar Gazibov, head of the Halal Certification Agency in Russia, Mr. Davlev, President of Agri-Food Strategies, and specialists from our companies, engineers from expert-driven and expert-oriented companies. All in all, we have more than 130 participants, as far as I can see. Dear colleagues, I suggest that we get started because we don't have much of time. We have only an hour and a half, but I will not certainly limit our international speakers because that's a unique chance to listen to them. And first of all, I'd like to pass the floor to the head of the Accreditation Center, Dmitry Krasnov, Federal Center of Agro-Expert. In your point of view, what are the opportunities of exporting halal products to the Gulf region and to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? Thank you so much, Mr. Lakhtyukov and everyone who takes part in that roundtable. Well, Gulf countries are an important market for the supplies of the Russian products. This region is clearly very important in terms of the population which is growing, and its welfare and well-being also is going up. And this creates necessary conditions for the rise in the demand for the food products, including the ones of Russian origin. In 2020, Russia exported to the GCC countries halal products to the tune of $106 million. And the key role there certainly was played by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which enjoyed the Russian product supply to the tune of $79 million against 2019. Halal certification grew by 9% and by 37% if we speak about Saudi Arabia. So it means that the Russian certified products are in demand, are demanded for, but still it means that we have even more serious future for that. The main products which we offer, which we supply for halal certification. These are the chocolate confectionery products, poultry, beef, which account for 90% of the total volume of halal products supplied last year in 2020. Despite good indicators and positive dynamics, we see a very serious potential for boosting of the export. But for that, we have to provide for continuous certification of our products, and we have to ensure the quality of our products. This is what this roundtable would be dedicated to. In essence, this is the answer to the question of the moderator. These are the main features of the development of the Russian foreign trade activity dealing with the GCC countries. We have a serious advantage. Russia has a domestic market of halal products. Russia is home to 25 million of Muslims, and you may find halal products in many supermarkets and chain suppliers, chain retailers, and this sets a very good foundation for the development of our product. I'm sure that it will boost our partnership relations. The Federal Center of Agri-Expert will apply all the necessary conditions, all necessary efforts so that our contacts are permanent and that this interaction goes on. We certainly hope that soon we'll embark on another stage of our interaction and we'll meet each other in person, would welcome you warmly, and we'll express our mutual desire to support that cooperation. Thank you so much, Mr. Krasnov. So let us proceed with the main essence of our today's event. I'd like to pass the floor to the representatives of the GCC Accreditation Center, GAC, who will tell us about the standards of their activity, about the requirements which they set for the enterprises, which have to meet the requirements which they have met when producing halal products, and to the discussion of the products which is going to be supplied to Saudi Arabia and to the Gulf regions. Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Bahim and Ms. Aisha, over to you. I think that Mr. Brahim will start. Can you hear me? Mr. Brahim?
Yes, thank you very much. This is Ahmed Al-Mfairi. Mr. Sergey, thank you very much for introducing Jack, and would be happy to participate in this roundtable talking about halal product certification and talking about our experience, how accreditation will facilitate the trade between GCC member states and any other economy, especially now Russia. We talk about Russia cooperation and trade between Russia and Saudi Arabia. Actually, we will present a short presentation talking about JAC establishment and how JAC is looking to support the trade between GCC member states and Russia. We start the accreditation of halal since 2014-15, and till now we practice this accreditation service in a high level and professional level. I will talk a little bit about our establishment as JAC. JAC is a regional body representing 6 member states of GCC and Yemen. JAC is one of the recognized accreditation body among all accreditation organization. ILAC and I have for International Higher Accreditation Forum. I will let Ibrahim Al-Hola continue in the presentation while he is managing the accreditation service right now, and he also an expert in this field. Once we finish from the presentation, I will be happy to answer any question from your delegates at any time. Thank you very much. Ibrahim, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Alexi. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed. I have a submitted presentation if you wish to share the screen. Thank you very much. So this is a presentation about the accreditation services in GCC countries. So the main point that we would like to clarify and for different partners from Russia is that how accreditation is a main tool for facilitating trade between the GCC countries in general and Saudi Arabia specifically and Russian Federation. So there will be 7 points here that we will talk about. We'll first present what is the infrastructure, what does accreditation mean? Is it for companies? Is it for certification bodies? So that's very important to clarify where it is in the pyramid of conformity assessment. Then we'll talk very quickly about the legal agreement and structure of GAC, the recognitions of the accreditation body, the advantages that GCC accreditation gives in Halal. We will clarify the process. If someone wants to be accredited as a certification body for Halal requirements and GSO requirements, how to do that. And also we will give you how to find the different requirements for certification bodies and also for the products to be exported from Russian Federation to the GCC countries generally and Saudi Arabia specifically. And then also how to get in contact with us. Next, please. So our relationship with Russian authorities is for many years now, and we also agreed, we had an agreement with the Russia Accreditation Agency, the federal accreditation body for Russia Accreditation Organization, and we have since 2018 very close cooperation. We also provided training in the premises of the ministry in Moscow for different certification bodies and interested parties in accreditation of Halal. And that's something that we are continuing, not only for Halal, but also for different kinds of accreditation and activities of conformity assessment in the 2 countries. Next, please. So let's see what does accreditation mean and where is it in the infrastructure. Next, please. So as you can see here, there's a pyramid. In this pyramid, you can see there are different parts of this pyramid. So we start from the bottom, where we have the products, processes, and services that are offered by a country inside of the country or to be exported outside of the country. Those services, they apply certain rules and certain requirements for their conformity. For example, for a product to be in conformity with Halal requirements, they have specific requirements for the products themselves and how to be done. There are processes like the slaughtering process has also its specific standard, like the GSO 993, for example, for slaughtering. And those requirements are for the product. The next level will be the auditing, testing, calibration, sampling, and inspection. And these are called conformity assessment activities. So these organizations, they make sure that the industry is doing the work in the right way. Usually these organizations are inside of the country and they make the certification. For example, for Halal, certification bodies do make certification for the products and they use different services. They make testing for example, DNA testing, alcohol percentage testing, etc. And these organizations that do testing and auditing and certification, they also have their own requirements like ISO 5189, 1725, 2165, etc. So those standards on the right you can see there are the ones that are required for the... Can we go back to the pyramid, please? Yes. And on the top of those bodies that do the conformity assessment comes the accreditation bodies. And the accreditation bodies make sure that the certification bodies, in our case, for example, in Russia, they are making the right job and they are making the certification of these industry, slaughterhouses, manufacturing sites, etc., in the right way and in conformity with the importing economies of GCC. So the accreditation bodies make sure that the certification bodies are doing the work well, and also accreditation bodies, they have their own standards that they have to apply, and they are evaluated by the international organizations. There are 3 international organizations in the world that manage the accreditation work. So we have the ILAC, which is related to everything related to laboratories, inspection bodies, proficiency testing, etc. IAF is the organization related to the accreditation bodies working in certification. So the accreditation bodies accrediting certifiers will be members of IAF. And we have the IHAF, which is the International Halal Accreditation Forum, where the members from both ILAC and IAF, they are also members of IHAF, and they coordinate the work of accreditation in Halal around the world. So Russia Accreditation is a member of IHAF, GAC is a member of IHAF, and others also around the world in Australia, New Zealand, USA, and others, they are also members of IHAF. The aim of these organizations, these three organizations, is that accreditation is done in a harmonized way. So if an accreditation is given to a certification body in Russia, that accreditation should not be duplicated. They don't need to get another accreditation. One accreditation is enough, and the accreditation bodies, members of those three organizations, make sure that they accept each other's certificates. This would tremendously help facilitating the trade by having the same rules, the same ways of working around the world, and by avoiding duplication for the product's acceptance. Next, please. So let's talk very fast about the GCC Accreditation Center, its position in the legal framework in the GCC countries. Next, please. So the GCC Accreditation Center was created by the agreement signed by the different GCC countries, and it's the board of directors in 2013 of the GSO, GCC Standardization Organization, GSO, and the board of directors, they signed in 8th of May 2013 the agreement of the creation of GAC, the accreditation body for the different members. Next, please. So the different ministers from the 7 countries, they agreed together to have this agreement. And this was the result of a study that started in 2006 by making a study in all GCC countries to make sure that we have the infrastructure that helps and supports trade and also supports exports from the member countries. Based on that study, there was a number of recommendations. In addition to metrology, laboratory associations, there was also the accreditation body, one accreditation body for GCC countries, and it's called the multi-economy. A multi-economy accreditation bodies, one accreditation body serving the 7 countries. And because the 7 countries, the different GCC countries, they have their agreement, trade agreements, and they have common interests and common legislations, that was very obvious that an accreditation body serving all of them would be also a good decision. Starting from 2010, 2013, there was the different training for organizations. There was a contract with the Australian accreditation body to put in place the best practices of accreditation. And 2013, the agreement was signed. January 2014, we started the first accreditations. And in 2016, we had our first international recognition. This is the history of the accreditation, and then it shows there was a lot of work done from the beginning to be in the level of international accreditation and helping our economies and industries having the recognition of the different certificates. Next, please. So this is the structure of the accreditation body. It's a normal structure. We have the board of directors with the representatives of the different ministers related to conformity assessment. Usually they are the ministers of trade or ministers of environment in some of the member countries. And the 7 ministers, they have their representations. Then we have the general direction and the different departments. Next, please. GAC also works with different stakeholders. So we have a big committee representing 21 interested parties. So we have 21 members, including Halal certification bodies. So the Halal certification bodies accredited by GAC around the world, they have voted and they have selected one representative in this committee. And this representative gives back to us the feedback from certification bodies and also makes sure that we have the information from them and how we can serve better the community, but also other stakeholders like the Association of Consumer Protection Association, the Association of Laboratories, the Standardization Organization, the other different regulators, the accredited cabs, etc. And representatives from these 7 governments are also on this committee. And it's very important for us that we have the feedback from this organization. Next, please. These are the functions. So we function through a board of directors, then general director, and then the stakeholders committee, and those are the functions. Next, please. So the income from GAC, we have the accreditation activities income, but also our budget comes from the different member countries. So it is split on the different countries together. So they finance us, and also we have grants and donations when available for GAC. Next, please. We do also have different activities. So Halal is one of the activities, but also we cover a lot number of other activities serving the economy. So we cover, in addition to Halal, also normal product certification. For example, the regulations for toys and electrical products exports also are covered by GAC. We have the management system. We have the testing and calibration labs, recognition. This also means that if we have a certificate of testing or a certificate of calibration coming from Russia, and because Russia accreditation is also signatory of the MOUs of ILAC and AF, we also accept those certificates without further retesting or further reaccreditation of those labs. And it's very important that Halal is not only the activity of certification, it is supported with a lot of other activities working at the same time to have in the end that certificate that has all the trust in that certificate that was done in the right way. Next, please. You can see here the number of accreditations that we are having. We are getting every year more and more accreditations and different fields of activities, and Halal is one of the major activities that we do also. So far 48 certification bodies around the world covering a big number of certifiers around the world are accredited. We can see also in the next slide, please, the different regions. So we have a number of accreditations, but also there are a number of applications for accreditation to Halal. There's also sometimes suspensions or withdrawals when the certification body is not able to keep the competence. So because we make visits during the accreditation cycle of 4 years, we always go back and see how the certification body is doing, and we do also make witness of some of their activities in the industry. Next, please. So we can see here, if we click on the video, it will work, that we have accreditations around the world. If you can please click on the slide. So we have different accreditations around the world, but that was just a statistic and it was a small video with that. So GAC was able to get recognitions around the world, and this is very important. Next, please. Because recognition means that we can work with our partners around the world by harmonizing the work that we do and with avoiding duplication. A product that comes with the certificate, which is accredited and recognized, doesn't need normally to go through additional tests, additional sampling, and additional scrutiny, except for the usual sampling, random sampling, but normally they have to be accepted directly. And this is why GAC is a member of the international and regional organizations. Next, please. So you see that for Asia Pacific, Russia accreditation and Russia Federation is part of the APEC and APAC recognition part. So the GAC is recognized in that part. We do also have recognition for the ILAC MLA, the international organization, the Arab world, and also for the IHAF. So this is how. Next, please. So this is the community for Asia Pacific. You can see there we have representatives, 3 representatives from Russia accreditation, but also we see the different partners in the Asia Pacific. We work together. GAC also is in the executive committee of APAC. We are also head of the capacity building. So we offer as a region a lot of capacity building, including training on certification and testing labs, etc., for all our members. And we do also have a lot of webinars being done in this region. And GAC is really a leader in this organization. Next, please. Also at the Arabic level, so the Arab countries also, they have their region, and GAC is also in the executive committee and responsible for the capacity building part. Next, please. So what are the advantages of getting GAC accreditation? Next, please. So as we said in the beginning, GAC is a multi-economy. So our accreditation is accepted in the 7 countries, 6 GCC countries and Yemen. So these are the 7 countries that are covered, and 1 accreditation is enough for you to be in those countries. So this is very important for us. In the field of halal, we are cooperating with the different organizations in the countries. So we cooperating with SFDA in Saudi Arabia. We're cooperating with other food and drug organizations responsible for trade and food and halal products in the countries. So our accreditation and the list of certifiers is always shared with these organizations and reviewed. This is how it is. And also it's very important to see that JAC is an intergovernmental organization, so there's more independence and impartiality in the work between different countries. We have a balanced representation of the different interested parties. And also we have transparent accreditation procedures, publicly available, in addition to the international recognition. So many certification bodies in halal, they did also expand their work to cover other kinds of products, even the normal food safety or other products that they can cover with their system. So I think it's very important to know that accreditation from GAC is advantageous and opens the markets for different countries. Next, please. So just to briefly show the GAC international leadership positions. Next, please. So GAC is a member of the IAF Executive Committee, also a member of the APAC and ARAC, the Asia Pacific, the Arab countries. We have the vice chairmanship of the ARAC. We are members of the IAF board, and we are a constitution member of the International Halal Accreditation Forum. We do chair the capacity building committee. We do chair the MRA committee, the recognition committee for the International Halal Accreditation Forum. We do also share the committee for communication, and also we are the designated representative for IF, a global database of certificates around the world. Next, please. So to make this valuable for our economies and to serve the strategies of the GCC countries and get in close cooperation with different countries, we have signed a number of MOUs. Okay, next, please. So we have around 35 MOUs with different organizations, and this is the picture of GAC signing with Russia accreditation agreement. This helps us to do a lot of work together, so we can have joint accreditations, capacity building activities, exchange of experts and databases, exchange of information, and also coordination of positions. So this is very important. We have also very fruitful cooperation with other countries, like with USA, for example, where we have a number of certifiers who are accredited jointly, and a number of businesses are also flowing to the member countries. Next, please. So we work not only in agreements, but also as teams. So the people you see there are in continuous cooperation together, and we do the work in a continuous way, and we coordinate positions in halal and other fields also. Next, please. So it's very important also not only to work on the international level, but also to make coordination at the national level for the member countries. And then we do a lot of activities for recognition of accreditation and using accreditation as a tool for the acceptance of certifiers and acceptance of certificates in the member countries, including halal. Next, please. And these are some little examples where we signed MOUs with different standardization organizations, with different regulators in the member countries. We do have a close cooperation and training, and also with the Secretariat of GCC itself. So this is the work that is done internally. Next, please. So the last 2 points in this presentation, the first one will be the accreditation process. So if a certification body wants to be accredited, there's a process for that, and it's a very simple process that we can see. Next, please. So first, there's the application. So a certification body who wants to export to GCC countries, they apply. The application can be done depending on the organization 2 ways. So a certification body must be registered with the local authorities in Saudi Arabia, for example, with the SFDA as certification body, and also in SASO as certification body. Then the application for GAC is made for the scope. They will have to choose which scope, which kind of products they're going to certify. After the application is accepted by GAC, there will be the documentation review to make sure that the certification body has the information available in this documentation. And then there will be an agreement with certification body about the date for an on-site assessment. and witness. During this COVID-19 period, this is now done remotely. So there are new techniques that have been developed at the international level that JSC is using to make the evaluations remotely. Once the assessment is done, there will be some corrections to be done by the certification body. And once everything is closed, the decision to give the accreditation is there, and then a cycle of 4 years is followed. So it's a very simple process. It's like certification. So certification bodies should be aware of their normal process of certification. It looks a lot like the accreditation process, and that's how the accreditation process is done. Next, please. The Halal requirements, we have 2 levels of Halal requirements. So we have the requirements for the certifiers themselves, and also we have the requirements for the products. For the certifiers, the main standards to be aware of are the GSO 2055-2, which is the requirement for certification bodies, how they do work. And it's based on the international standard, ISO IEC 1765. So this is any product certification. What is done in 2055-2 is that the clauses of 65 are applicable, in addition to other management system also requirements. And then the additional Halal requirements are added to the different clauses of 65. This means that a certification body in Halal will be able to make a normal product certification system, but also the certifiers who are already providing 17065 can also extend their scope and become also Halal certifiers. So this is very important to be in line with the international standards. There's also local scheme requirements for the CBs, like how to register in the local authorities, etc. And I think my colleague from SFDA will be able to clarify the different processes for that. Next, please. There are also the requirements for the products. So there are the main standards that have to be taken in consideration are the GSO 993 technical regulation, which is the animal slaughtering requirements according to Islamic rules. And this is the way the slaughtering has to be done. It covers different kinds of animals. It covers chicken, poultry, beef, and different other kinds of animals permitted under the rules, Islamic rules. But also there's the general requirement, which is the 2055-1, which is for Halal food general requirements that are also there. There's a number of other requirements that cover Halal and that you can find them depending on your field of activity and your sector of industry. Next, please. You can find them on the GSO standard, and then you can go there. When you search for Halal, you find the different requirements specific for Halal for the different products and the industry sectors. Next, please. So during the last years, we have seen that there are some challenges for certifiers and for industries to be able to export their products. And this is very important that we give you feedback from our experience. Next, please. So the most difficult part for certification bodies is to find the competent auditors. It's not only enough for an auditor to know the Islamic rules. They should also know the industry. They should be able to evaluate the production processes, the different HACCP requirements, and the different critical points in production. So that's very important. The other difficulty some certifiers find is the documentation, how to write a proper documentation according to 1765 and 2055-2. That's something that many certifiers now are able to do it, but it was very challenging part for them to put it in place. Audit duration is something also that we see that usually before accreditation and international standards were included and introduced for certification, certifiers used to make very short audits, half a day and once a year, and that was not enough to cover all the requirements, and then that can harm the product in the end if it's not halal. And also the possibility and the capabilities of quality management and reactivity to non-conformities, that also was a challenge. So these are the 4 main points for certifiers that they need support to be able to deliver a proper Halal certification work. With this, we come to the last point of this presentation with more information. If you wish, next please. If you wish more information from JSC, you can always contact us on from our website, jsc.org.sa. And also you have an email for inquiries that you can send to us, info@jsc.org.sa. Next please. And what I want to say in the end that Vestiaire Moislineye, together we are stronger. And this is very important that we can cooperate together so that we can facilitate trade. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we're happy to have them. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we cannot hear the speaker. We cannot seem to hear the speaker. We're not getting any sound. Agro expert is muted.
Mr. Sergey, I think Mr. Ibrahim now his presentation.
Коллеги, меня слышно?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can we hear?
Сейчас слышно.
Yes, now we can hear you. Finally. All right, so I'll start with the very beginning, what I've been saying. Mr. Ibrahim, thank you very much for your very informative presentation. And I think most of the questions have been answered and addressed during the course of the presentation. I would like to thank Mr. Ahmed separately, who had made the whole introduction and who had introduced your JAC accreditation center. You answered lots of questions, but still we have a few questions on the chat and a few questions here for our Russian-speaking people. The GSO ISO 17065 standards and others were those about national bodies for certifications, whether they would meet halal standards. Mr. Ahmed and Mr. Ibrahim, I would like to address a few questions to you directly. Is it recognized, are certificates for food products accepted in Saudi Arabia, those issued by halal centers which have been accredited by JAC? Are such certificates valid in Saudi Arabia?
Thank you, Sergey. I saw many of the questions in the chat. Let me explain directly to those questions. In each member state, actually, there is a scheme, and this scheme includes at least one part, which is accreditation. Accreditation is very important, actually. So the accreditation is one of the requirements for acceptance any halal CB in each country. Okay. So there is another requirement by the Saudi official government, SFDA and SASO, for acceptance any halal CB. One of them to have a legal representative in Saudi Arabia and have insurance and other requirements, which is be explained, inshallah, with our colleague in SFDA. But accreditation, yes, it is one of the important parts. Even in other member states, they require accreditation. We have another question talking about if Roche accreditation will be a full membership in IHAF. That means Roche accreditation will be authorized to accredit Russian halal certification centers. Yes, this accepted by IHAF, but Roche accreditation should work with one of the accreditation body full members, and Roche accreditation already signed an agreement with JAC, and Roche accreditation can start the accreditation at any time they would like in cooperation with JAC, and we'll be happy also to support Roche accreditation in this area. There is another question talking about the assessment of the assessment should be remote or on-site assessment. I think Mr. Ibrahim, he mentioned that the normal cycle is on-site assessment, but during a COVID pandemic, we, as other accreditation body, follow the international accreditation organizations. we try to facilitate the process for the halal CBs as much as we can. The remote assessment should be evaluated according to the risk-based actually for halal CBs. So once the halal CBs show that the risk is less than what we're expecting and not harm the final decision, Jack will be happy to do the remote assessment, and we did some of the assessment remotely also. Last question I saw in my presentation in the chat, they're talking about dairy products, the certifications needed for their product in Saudi Arabia. I think Ibrahim, he talked about also the requirement, the standard, the regulations for GSO, and for SFDA also they have a standard store. They can search about the standards, and they should follow the standards and regulations published by GSO and SFDA in Saudi Arabia. If there is any other question, I will be happy to answer them.
Господин Ахмед, правильно ли я вас понял, что все...
Mr. Ahmed, would that be a correct assumption that the certificates which have been issued by the national bodies of certifications are accepted in Saudi Arabia if they have been authorized by Jack?
Yes, Mr. Sergey, as I told you, SASU and SFDA, the official government, they will accept any halal CB, follow the requirement, the scheme of Saudi Arabia. And the scheme mentioned in one of the requirements to have accreditation. And the accreditation from Jack is authorized and accepted by Saudi government. Yes.
Понятно. Спасибо большое. Я сейчас предлагаю...
Thank you. Now I would like to give the floor to Yusuf Salem Al-Khaibi, but our colleagues from Jack, please stay online, stay with us during the course of the presentation. I think that there will be questions from SFDA and also for the summary. So once again, I would like to say that Mr. Yosef has made a huge input in maintaining our cooperation with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In this whole world, this pandemic had just started and a set of limitations just kicked in, but he had arrived here at that moment together with his colleagues, and they had appraised like 7 poultry units, poultry production facilities. Straight after their inspection had been completed, they would have to stay here in Russia for 1 month more. But we lived through that together quite successfully. Mr. Youssef and his colleagues did have quite a lot of time to stroll around the capital of the Russian Federation. I hope you're not tired of Moscow, and hope you'll visit us anytime, any day. And I would like to give you the floor for your presentation. Hopefully there will be more questions. Mr. Youssef, over to you. Your turn.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Sergi. It's my pleasure to participate in the round table with you today in this event. Yeah, I remember 1 year ago, I was stuck in Moscow. This is the same time during the COVID-19, and actually we stayed there around 2.5 months there. Yes, thank you for inviting me. I would like to give you a view about the national halal system in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi national halal system, which is started from just combined by Saudi Food and Drug Authority and Saudi organization, standard organization SASU. So for the certification body. It's a start from the accreditation, and my friend in GAC, they fully covered this point for the accreditation and for the acceptance. So for the certification body, they have to get an acceptance certificate from our colleague in SASO. So they fill the requirement. Then they can apply with the SFDA for recognition. So, and the requirement for the recognition, it's not too much, it's only to get an accreditation certificate based in the GSO standards, and also to get an acceptance certificate from the SASO. So we will not repeat their work, so we will accept their work, and then we evaluate the file for the certification body. And also, as you know, the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, the competent authority in Saudi Arabia, it's always taken account the challenges and difficulties for some country that have a certification body that have a problem with accreditation. So there is some condition we take into account. So in order to continue and to make sure there is no barrier for the trade between the countries. So just I want to mention about how is the Russian company, they send their product to Saudi Arabia. So if any Russian company wants to send their product to Saudi Arabia, first of all, it should be, this company should be registered with SFDA. So during the competent authority in Russia, then if their product needs halal certificate, it should be has a halal certificate when they send their product to Saudi Arabia. Halal certificate should be issued by any certification body that's recognized by SFDA. And for the question about what kind of a product needs halal certificate, actually it's already listed by the GSO standards. As you know, for the meat and poultry products, the halal certificate is mandatory, and also for the products that from animal origin, like in platin or other things. So the halal certificate is mandatory in this product. And also we make a new product list now, and we share it with inside Saudi Arabia. It's based in the GSO standards. The product needs halal certificate. So, and we will publish it inshallah soon, and we will give a grace time for the company to comply with this requirement. And for the requirement for the halal, so there is a special requirement, the special standards which mentioned Brother Ibrahim about it. For example, for the GSO 993, which is animal slaughtering according to the Islamic rules. So this kind of standard, it's mandatory, and also the special things with that, it's there is no stunning for the poultry. So there is a special criteria for the stunning for the other animal. And also for the GSO standard 2055-1, which is the general requirement for the food products, that's cover the how to produce food or products based in the Islamic law or based in the halal standards. So that means when we talk about any product, so it should be the raw materials, it should be compliant with the halal, and also the processing, it should be compliant with the halal in order to have finished product which is compliant with halal to state as a halal product. Which is, we have to take into account for the processing and prevent the risk contamination with the non-halal product. Yes, and for the main faults or the main problem, which is always we face in Saudi FDA with the halal product, which is sent from even from Russia or even any other country. We have some point we have to mention here. First, the product is not compliant with the requirement for the Saudi Arabia. And also, the product sometimes does not comply with the halal requirement, or they have a halal certificate, which is from non-recognized certification body. So in this case, as you know, we already announced last year about the requirement for the poultry and meat product, that halal certificate should be from the recognized certification body from the SFDA in order to accept that halal certificate. So we know there is a challenges with the certification body sometimes to comply with the requirement and the standard. So we are in SFDA. We take each case by case and we evaluate how is it and how does it affect the trade value. Yes, and thank you very much, and I am happy to answer any question.
Господин Юсеф, спасибо большое.
Mr. Yusuf, thank you so much. You already answered one of the questions which I asked regarding different requirements set for the raw materials and for the composite production. But there would be more procedural or housekeeping issues. I'd like to get back to the situation which we found ourselves last February when the countries were closed. Can you tell us what is the rule for the new companies which apply for SFD certificate in terms of halal certification and meeting the sanitary and veterinary rules now once the borders are closed, when the travel is restricted? Probably there is a mechanism of online scrutiny, of online inspection.
Yes, thank you for this question. Actually, in SFDA, we take into account this, the pandemic, and we take everything about the pandemic, and we take into account what's going on with that. So, in order to accept or to list the new establishment for to be approved with SFDA, so they cancel their application, and we study case by case. It doesn't mean it's necessary for the visit. So because we have a good cooperation with the competent authority there, so I think this is not a problem. Thank you.
Понятно. И вот еще один вопрос из нашего.
There is one more question from the chat box from Alex Belikov. I will extend it a little bit so that it correlates more with a question which was asked to Mr. Ahmed from GAC. If the company at the moment doesn't have any accreditation from SFDA, but it is accredited by GAC or by any other accreditation agency, which has an agreement with either SFDA or with GAC, can the products certified by this national certification or accreditation center be supplied to Saudi Arabia?
Yes, thank you for your question. And let me just make it clear. The GAC, they are certified or accreditation body. They are certified the certification body. They give accreditation certificate for the certification body. If you talk about the certification body, so in this case, for us with the Saudi National Halal System, we will accept any accreditation certificate from GAC or any member from IHAF forum. So in order to fulfill the requirement for the accreditation. So if you are asking about the company, that company produced, for example, for any slaughterhouse there. So in this case, it's different. The slaughterhouse, it should be registered with SFDA first. Then they can send their product to Saudi Arabia. And when they want to send their product, so it should be compliant with, for example, with the sanitary requirement. And also, if the product needs halal certificate, it should be compliant with the halal requirement. Thank you.
Sergey, if I can
Спасибо
add to here,
большое. Ну, еще один вопрос.
if I can add to
Да-да.
here just an explanation that accreditation
Да,
is a
господин
tool.
Брахим.
Yes, accreditation is a tool in the hands of regulators. So in every country, you have a regulator like as FDA that puts the rules for the products to come in the country and the rules for the certifiers, how they will be accepted at the certifiers. And accreditation is one part of their application to be recognized in the country. And that's why as an accredited certification body, they can claim they are in conformity with the requirement, but they still have to be approved in the country to be able to give certificates to the products. So this is the different levels, the level of the regulator and then the tool of accreditation in the hands of the regulators.
Касательно того, что убрать. Понятно. Большое спасибо. И
I got it. Thank you so much. To follow it up, many exporters at the moment consider other countries, other markets, Southeast Asian countries, which have or could have some agreements with SFDA or GAC. For instance, if the Russian National Accreditation Center, Halal Center, is accredited either by SFDA or GAC, and your organization has an agreement with, for instance, Malaysian Accreditation Center, just imaginary, or with certain competent body in Singapore, can such Russian companies being certified by GAC or by SFDA supply the food products to Malaysia or to Singapore to third parties?
Yes, yeah, I think for this question, it depends on the mutual recognition. So when there is a mutual recognition between the countries, so that state, they accept, for example, the halal certificate from each other, so that will be acceptable, I think so. Thank you.
If I can add to Brother Yusuf response. So there are different regulations for every country, as Brother Yusuf said, and then it depends on that country. So for example, for now, Malaysia, they have their own scheme, which has different requirements than the GCC scheme and the Saudi scheme. They have their different rules for accepting certifiers. The essence and the reason why IHAF was created is to harmonize this around the world. We do not have one system for halal around the world yet. We do not have one accreditation accepted around the world yet. So in GCC countries, we were able to harmonize between the different GCC countries to have GSO standards and to work together. But there is no an international standard for halal. There is no an international way for halal to be given. This is an issue that needs to be solved. IHAF is trying to do that, but it doesn't mean that you have a certificate for Malaysia that you can export to Saudi Arabia directly, or you can export to other GCC countries. There are different rules. There's surely some work to be done between different regulators around the world. Work is being done between accreditors, but also work to be done by certifiers and different countries to harmonize the world in halal. Today, you can have a phone that is accredited, certified in one country, and it goes around the world. But we don't have yet one product which is certified halal and goes around the world.
Thank you, Brother Ibrahim, for this. Yeah, and this is actually our challenge now for the halal. So in order to harmonize and to work with our colleague with Islamic country to harmonize this requirement. Thank you.
Господин Ахмед, господин Йосиф.
Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Yosef, thank you so much. In essence, that was great. That was very interesting. And we're looking forward to several pitches, several presentations from the business representatives. And I do not rule it out that there will be more questions. Stay with us. Stay tuned. I'd like to focus your attention to the following. Before the product is supplied to Saudi Arabia or some GCC countries or Southeastern Asia or to the Eurasian Economic Union, this product has to be scrutinized and assessed in terms of the compliance with the national rules or supranational rules because in Russia we live within the Eurasian Economic Union, and it also has to comply with the rules of the importer. So the regulators keep an eye on that. With us is Artyom Daushev from the Russian Agricultural Products Regulator. Artyom, tell us please about your industry, how you interact with different accreditation agencies. Are you with us? Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear us? Yep.
Да, да.
Да, еще несколько слов хотел бы сказать.
I'd like to
Вначале утром мы говорили уже о
say a few words prior to my presentation. Early in the morning, we said that we have very good relations with
Food and Drug Authority.
Food and Drug Authority,
Гордимся тем уровнем
and
доверия,
we
оказываем друг
are
другу.
proud of the trust and confidence in each other, which we enjoy and which our Saudi colleagues enjoy.
Мы будем продолжать это сотрудничество,
And we're going to continue that cooperation. We are ready
его развивать.
to develop that at different levels, as I said, at the
И с точки зрения
scientific and technical level as well, in terms of providing for safety and security, safety of the Russian exported products.
сказать о том, что у нас выстроена
Let me say that we have built a very powerful network
лабораторий,
of labs
в которых проводятся исследования
where we
все
are
требования стран-импортеров.
doing a research to comply with all the necessary requirements, including some specific ones.
Уровень контроля, который сейчас...
It means,
Меня слышно?
can you hear me?
Да, Артем Адганович, вас слышно? Хорошо.
Yes, yes, Mr. Daushev.
Звука.
Well, actually, someone says that there is no sound.
Соответственно, система контроля выстроена таким образом,
The
что
control system is built the following way.
полностью от поля до прилавка прослеживается
We can keep track of everything starting from the field to the shelves of the
2017 года
shop.
появляется электронный, то есть вся мясная
Since 2017, we have a digital workflow, electronic workflow. So we are keeping track of everything related to meat from 2017. We monitor the dairy products fully from 2019. It means that we can keep track of all the products which are being certified for export. As you correctly said, we guarantee safety of these products and we guarantee that all the requirements would be met, including the sanitary and other requirements of the GCC countries. Therefore, we'll continue to keep track of the exported products and we're going to interact on all the issues with our colleagues from SFDA. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to invite colleagues to attend our R&D institutes, and if need is, you are welcome to visit our labs for experience exchange, if certainly this is interesting for you. Thank you so much.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you.
Артем Адганович, все-таки вы,
Mr. Daushev,
говоря языком нас, бизнеса, контрагента,
speaking business language, you are a business agent of SFDA, meaning that you are keeping in touch with SFDA, but still, SFDA has
особенности,
a unique feature, a unique position,
и государственный орган
in the sense that
контролем
this is a public agency which controls the sanitary and veterinary requirements, and also
конкретно требованиям халяль.
actually it monitors the compliance with the halal requirements. And we have good news.
Несколько наших
Quite recently,
национальных центров по сертификации
several
получили
certification and accreditation center acquired a status of SFDA partner. The Director General of one of such centers, Mr. Gazizov from ICSC Halal LLC, is with us. I'd like to ask him to tell us about his experience.
был. На самом деле сейчас он пошел на,
Now,
сказать, новый, более
Mr. Gazizov
высокий.
got promoted
Айдар Габдулович.
to a high level, but tell us, Mr. Gazizov, about your experience. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Can you hear me well? Yep,
Слышим вас.
we can hear you very well.
Слышно, слышно, Айдар Габдулович.
Mr. Gazizov, over to you.
Добрый день еще раз, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Sir. Mr. Lachtukov, Mr. Krasnov, I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity for your kind invitation to such an August meeting. I'm really very much impressed by the outstanding speakers who you have invited, really. My agency celebrates 19 years, and quite recently we applied for MOEV, the Water and Environmental Protection Agency in Saudi Arabia. And at the moment, our international center has an 8-year long experience of working, of operation. Since 2014. We started a scheduled export of the Russian halal products abroad. And bear in mind our experience of communication to partners from United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, certainly we have a huge experience of cooperation with ESMO, with Mr. Al-Maini. Back in 2017, we got accredited by GAC. I'd like to take advantage of this opportunity to thank Dr. Al-Mutairi for his support. It was not easy for us to get these accreditations. And Mr. Lachtukov, you are very right in saying that we actually, this experience was born in travail, meaning that it was a quite painful experience. And I hope that once I got promoted, I will bring the work of my center to a totally new level. A year ago, on March 8th, we were introduced to Dr. Al-Mutairi and his team, and within 2 weeks, we made an audit. They made an audit of our enterprises, of the poultry farms, and you were right saying that the very objective of that was to scrutinize these farms as to how they comply with the halal standards. We can hear you very well. Thank you. This is for the second year that we're working with SFDE. There is an agreement signed between our organizations, and quite recently we were included into the list of partners of SFDE. At the moment, we have a successful experience of working with them. We are on the verge of resuming our accreditation in GAC. I would like to thank everyone who contributes to that. And I do hope that very soon we'll resume our certification in ESMO. And our efforts will help us to work further. We're looking into the future, so to extending our relations to Southeast Asia. Our partners asked us to get accreditation there so that we could supply our products to Southeast Asia as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Gazizov. Thank you. Let me specify that still Mr. Al-Harbi is director of Halal Center of SFDA, but now I'd like to get to my own experience of dealing with Saudi Arabian colleagues, remembering the situation when not our Saudi colleagues came to Russia, but I remember that back in 2019, we, together with the delegation from the Ministry of Agriculture and along with the colleagues who are present at that table, we visited a joint event in Riyadh. And I remember the very first evening when, without just spontaneously, with Mr. Belov, my colleague from the National Dairy Producers Union, we met all of a sudden in a supermarket, and I was taking pictures of the poultry products, the packaging, labeling, sizes of the chicken and the packaging, and Mr. Belov was taking a picture of the dairy products, trying to understand what products are in most demand. And in 2020, the Russian dairy products were accredited to be supplied to Saudi Arabia. And proceeding from these my memories, I'd like to pass the floor to Artyom Belov.
Да, Сергей,
Artyom, are you with
Дмитрий,
us? Sergey,
уважаемые
Dmitry,
коллеги, я
dear
рад вас
colleagues,
приветствовать.
I'm glad to welcome all of you
Ну, мы
here.
действительно сейчас находимся в
Well,
самом
really,
начале
we
пути,
are
если
in
говорить
the
о
very beginning
наших
of our
продажах в
journey,
Саудовской
speaking
Аравии.
about our
У
sales
нас
to
действительно
Saudi
в
Arabia.
прошлом году
Really, last year,
я немножко другой, Артем. Значит, у нас, значит, мы действительно находимся в самом начале
we really
пути,
are in
хотя
the
в
very
целом
beginning of
молочный
our
экспорт
journey,
из Российской
although
Федерации
dairy
развивается очень
products
динамично. И в этом
exports
смысле
from Russia is
2020 год был очень
going
показательным,
robustly,
потому что
and
экспорт молочной
2019
продукции
was
вырос на
quite
20% в натуральном
illustrative
выражении,
because
примерно
the
15% в денежном
dairy
выражении. Это
products
очень хорошая динамика.
export grew by 20%.
Королевство Саудовская Аравия и в целом страны
Kingdom of
GCC для нас
Saudi
являются
Arabia and
безусловным
GCC countries
приоритетом.
certainly are
Мы
top
видим,
priority for
насколько
us.
динамично
We see how
развивается
dynamically
потребление молока, молочных
the consumption
продуктов.
of milk and dairy
Мы видим,
products evolves there.
насколько
We see
страны региона
that the
оказывают
countries of the
влияние на
region
потребление молока,
are
молочных продуктов не только
certainly
в рамках
boosting the
GCC,
consumption
но и
of
в
milk
соседних
and dairy
странах, и в
products not
каком-то
only
смысле
in
могут
GCC
являться
countries
для нас
but
в том
in the neighboring
числе
countries as
одним из таких
well.
перевалочных
And
каналов для работы
therefore
на
GCC country
рынке
may
в третьих странах. Поэтому,
be
конечно
seen
же,
as
для нас
an intermediate stage for us for the
поставки в
transshipment of
Королевство
our
Саудовскую Аравию откроют
products
очень широкие
to
возможности,
neighboring
еще раз
countries.
повторю, не
Therefore,
только с точки
the
зрения
inauguration of our supplies
работы вот
to Saudi
непосредственно на
Arabia
этом рынке или рынке стран
is a very good
GCC.
beginning for
Для нас,
us,
конечно,
and
есть целый
we
ряд
will expand
приоритетных
not only
продуктов,
to
по
the
которым мы
GCC
работаем. Мы
countries,
с той
but
стороны
even
довольно
beyond that.
внимательно следим за динамикой
We are
импорта продуктов, и мы видим,
watching
что
clearly the
для
inputs of
нас
the
открываются
products, and
хорошие
we see that
возможности. У нас
there are
есть
very good
компании, которые
opportunities
сейчас
for that.
активно
There are
прорабатывают
companies which
вопросы,
are
связанные с
developing
поставками
this question
сыров,
related to the
прежде всего в
supplies of
категории мягких
cheese,
сыров,
especially soft
плавленных
cheese,
сыров, продуктов, связанных,
melted
которые
cheese,
часто объединяют в единую группу. Это творог, да,
and
то есть сыры и
also
творог.
the homemade
Есть
cheese
хороший потенциально
or
спрос на
cottage
сливочное
cheese.
масло.
There is a
Ну и,
very good
конечно же,
demand
биржевые
for
товары. Это сухое цельное,
butter
сухое обезжиренное молоко.
and
Тем более в
whole
настоящий
milk,
момент времени конъюнктура,
whole
которая складывается на глобальном
fatless
мировом рынке
milk.
молочных продуктов, ценовая конъюнктура, она
And we see that
благоволит,
the
в том числе развитию
international
поставок
price
из Российской
situation is
Федерации.
very
Ну, а,
beneficial for
собственно
the
говоря,
supplies from Russia.
скажем так, плавное ослабление рубля
And
делает наш экспорт
the
еще
Russian
более
ruble
конкурентоспособным.
devaluation,
Поэтому, конечно,
depreciation
у нас
makes our
большие
exports even
надежды, связанные
more
с Королевством
advantageous and
Саудовской
beneficial.
Аравии. Но еще
Therefore,
раз повторюсь, мы
our
сейчас пока
future
находимся в начале
is
пути. Я надеюсь, что
connected
уже там,
to
в течение
Saudi Arabia.
следующего года
And I hope
нам
that
будет
within
чем
next year,
похвастаться на
we'll have some
с точки
results
зрения
to
продаж на
boast in terms of our
соответствующем рынке.
sales to certain markets in the GCC countries. Thank you so much, Mr. Belov. I hope that next year we are going to compete for the exports of dairy products and poultry to Saudi Arabia. But let me focus on my industry, the one which I represent, the company which not for the first time is exporting dairy products to Saudi Arabia. And as a pathbreaker, the one which had to experience all the hardships in order to open the way for other companies, it was Gulf Resource Company, and it learned a lot from this experience, and therefore it was the first to organize to ensure a green corridor for itself. With us is Mr. Rashid Al-Rumani, who is Business Development Director of TUV Austria Partner. That's the company thanks to which the so-called green corridors or fast track could be arranged. And I hope that Mr. Rashid Al-Rumani will tell us about the experience and how other companies could take advantage of the experience and their services in order to facilitate supplies to Saudi Arabia. Mr. Rashid, over to you.
I would like to thank you for inviting me to this roundtable. and I will speak in Arabic to make sure all people here in this round people to understand my speech. ففي البداية أشكركم صراحة على دعوة TUV أوستريا للحضور هذه طاولة النقاش، وراح نقدم لكم يعني عن برنامج الCOC الفاست تراك أو المخصص من الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء. في البداية راح أتكلم عن TUV أوستريا. TUV أوستريا كانت يعني مؤسسة من عام 1872، عندها أكثر من 3600 خبير منتشرين في 40 دولة. هي تعتبر قائد في هذا المجال في TIC أو مجال الاختبار والتفتيش ومنح الشهادات. الشريحة الثانية next please. الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء بدأت البرنامج عام 2018، برنامج الCOC، وكان الهدف منه ذاك الوقت كان برنامجين، في برنامج إلزامي وبرنامج اختياري، وكان الهدف منه تسهيل الإجراءات للمصدرين أنهم بالحصول على هذه الشهادة أنهم يقدرون يدخلون السوق السعودي بدون أي تفتيش آخر على الشحنات. وكان من أهم الفوائد له أن التأكد أن الشحنة تكون تم تفتيشها في بلد المنشأ، وتسهيل الإجراءات حال وصولها للمنفذ، وبالتالي الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء تفسحها مباشرة بموجب هذه الشهادة. طبعا first slides please. First slide. Sorry, the previous one. Yeah, this one. تعتبر TUV أوستريا هي أول شركة تعاونت مع الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء في هذا البرنامج، وكان من خلال 46 مكتب منتشرة حول العالم. الميزة TUV أوستريا يعني احنا هي مقرها في السعودية، لها سجل تجاري، فرعها اللي في السعودية موجود في الرياض، لها سجل تجاري سعودي. استفاد هذا المكتب من خبرات TUV أوستريا عالميا، واستفادت TUV أوستريا بأنها استقطبت الكفاءات، ومن ضمنها الكفاءات اللي موجودة في الهيئة اللي يدورون برنامج الغذاء في الشركة. في 2020 لكن أن تتخيلوا الحمد لله أصدرنا أكثر من 10,000 شهادة مطابقة للCOC، استفادت منها الشركات الروسية بشكل كبير، والحمد لله لا يوجد علينا أي ملاحظات ريكول من السوق أو سحب منتجات من السوق. المنتجات اللي صدرنا لها شهادة المطابقة، أو ما علينا أي ملاحظات من الهيئة العامة بخصوص الشهادات المطابقة المتعلقة بالغذاء. Next please. شهادة المطابقة تمر بأربع مراحل. هي تبدأ من تقديم الطلب، ثم عمل التفتيش، ثم تقييم الملف، ومن ثم اللي هو إصدار شهادة المطابقة. Next please. المتطلب الأول اللي هو جمع، في البداية يقدم العميل لنا اللي هو شهادة السجل التجاري وطلب الشهادة الRFC وطلب الشهادة وإقرار بالمطابقة، ومن ثم نعرض عليه الكوتيشن أو عرض السعر بالفاتورة، وصورة من المنتجات، وصورة من بطاقة البيانات، والتسجيل في موقع الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء الخاص بالمنتج، بالإضافة إلى أي شهادات أخرى تتطلبها الشحنة مثل شهادة الحلال للمنتجات اللحوم أو الدواجن، الشهادة الصحية أو متطلبات أخرى قد تطلبها الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء. Next. هذه صورة لطلب الشهادة COC، يوضح فيها اسم العميل، مكانه، موقعه، الشحنة، حجم الشحنة، مكان التخزين، مكان التصدير المينا، ومكان الاستيراد، كلها توضح في هذا النموذج. بالتالي نقدر نقيم حجم التفتيش وتوفير المتطلبات لنقوم بالعملية بأسهل وأقصر وقت. Next please. بعد هاي المرحلة الثانية نقوم بعملية التفتيش، وهي تتمر ب4 مراحل، اللي هي تفتيش الوثائق وتفتيش الهوية لنتأكد من الهوية عن المنتج، هل اللي موجود في الوثائق هو نفسه اللي موجود في الشحنة. بعدها الفحص الظاهري أو الفيزيكال تشيك لنتأكد أن ظروف التخزين بطريقة سليمة في الشحنة، ومن ضمنها نسحب عينات ونرسلها للمختبر للفحص. بعدها نتأكد أنها جميع هذه الفحوصات أنها مطابقة للمواصفات السعودية، ومن ثم نروح للمرحلة الثالثة. Next please. المرحلة الثالثة هي تقييم الملف جميعا، من بداية المرحلة الأولى من الطلب إلى الثانية عمل الانسبكشن بمراحل ال4، نقيم جميع الوثائق قبل ما نصدر الشهادة، ومن ثم في الأخير نصدر شهادة COC. هذا صورة من الانسبكشن ريبورت اللي يكون مع المفتش، يوضح فيه جميع فيه معلومات مشتركة بين RFC اللي هو طلب الشهادة مع الانسبكشن ريبورت، فيها بعض المعلومات الأساسية وتنطبق حسب المواصفات الخاصة لكل منتج، مثل الدواجن أو اللحوم يجب أن يكون معها مثلا داتا لوجر، مثلا مقياس الحرارة، أو مثلا متطلبات أخرى تخص المنتجات الأخرى. Next please. هذا أيضا مثل ما ذكرنا قبل قليل اللي هو تقرير الفحص. وفي آخر ملاحظة اللي هو كثير من الشركات يعني تواجه أو تعاني الروسية في البداية. مثلا أحد الشركات الكبرى في روسيا كانت تعاني في السوق السعودي، بعد التعاقد معنا الحمد لله لم تواجهها أي مشاكل من تاريخ التعاقد، يعني من بداية 2019. وهذا دليل على نجاح البرنامج اللي عملته الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء، ونجاحنا احنا مع شركائنا في روسيا، خصوصا شركات الدواجن. يعني حلينا كثير من مشاكلهم الداخلية، ليس فقط قبل الاستيراد لكن حتى بعد وصولها للسوق السعودي حلينا كثير من المشاكل الحمد لله، وصار استيعاب أكبر للمواصفات السعودية من الجانب الروسي. وإحنا لازلنا مستمرين، وعلاقتنا جدا قوية بإخواننا في روسيا جنبا إلى جنب، وهذا يسهل عليهم في إجراءاتهم في يعني حتى الشركات الجديدة أنها قادرة أنها تدخل السوق السعودي بسهولة عن طريق هذا البرنامج COC، لأن جزء منها تتحملها شركة تقويم المطابقة المعترف فيها من الهيئة العامة للغذاء والدواء، بأنها تتحقق من أن منتجات هذه الشركات مطابقة للمواصفات السعودية قبل دخولها للسوق السعودي أو قبل شحنها للمملكة العربية السعودية. شكرا لكم مرة ثانية، واشكركم جميعا على الاستماع، وإذا في أي أسئلة احنا حاضرين.
Спасибо большое, Рашид. На самом деле
Thank you so
информация...
much, Rashid. Actually, that information is clearly very important and very interesting. If the company wants to facilitate the surge in exports to Saudi Arabia, I do think that you may render assistance to them. And as for the translation of the first part of your presentation, the dog barked. But end of the day, it was quite logic and quite rational, and not in terms of a wrap-up, despite the fact that we are running out of time. But still, we know that Russia and other countries of the world have a saying that the dessert is always served as the last meal, as the last dish. And therefore, the speeches of the experts is the most tasty part of any meal. And today with us, we have the executive director of the Association of Confectionery Enterprises, ASCOND. I know that there are supplies to Saudi Arabia, but still, following the results of the last year, the supplies of confectionery products accounted for $35 million against $1.5 billion of overall exports. So this is a tiny share, but I understand that there is a room for improvement. Mr. Lashmankin, will you tell us a few words how we are going to interact with Saudi Arabia? Well, Sergey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak up. Colleagues, good afternoon. And well, 35 million out of $1.5 billion worth of the market, is it a lot or not a lot? Well, that's quite a lot. Well, actually, we account for 2.23% of the overall market of Saudi Arabia. I mean, the confectionery products for such a highly competitive and very demanding market as the confectionery market of Saudi Arabia. 2.3%, this is our share of the market. This is a good start. Bear in mind that the Russian confectionery companies started opening up the Saudi market just several years ago. I'd like to draw your attention to the statistics. Back in 2019, the exports of confectionery products to Saudi Arabia, money-wise, amounted to 11.5%, whereas in 2020, compared to 2019, it grew by 20.6% in terms of value. So despite all the hardships of the last year, despite all the difficulties we run into, including the transport logistics, the supplies of the Russian confectionery products to the GCC countries, and first of all to the market of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are going up, and this is something we celebrate. We understand that the Russian confectionery industry has all the chances to be competitive at this market and to take a bigger stake there. Last year, together with Agri-Expert and the World Bank, we have developed an expert reference book for Saudi Arabia dedicated to chocolate, and we see that the potential of the Russian confectionery industry is really huge in terms of export to Saudi Arabia. Getting back to the desserts, we are sure that in the midterm perspective, you will see more confectionery products from Russia in the Saudi market. Thank you so much, Mr. Lashmankin. Actually, the main part of our session is over, and we are right on time, but I do think that the most burning questions, the most urgent questions can be asked in the upcoming 5 minutes. So I invite you to ask these questions Mr. Davleev sent several questions on the chat box. I understand that part of the questions have already been answered. Albert, do you have any more questions? Yes, thank you so much. I will switch to English.
Organizers, speakers, and participants of the conference, this session in particular, for an opportunity to address the current issues of halal certification of products exported from Russia to Saudi Arabia. Our company provides consulting services for Russian and major international food companies, processing, exporting, and importing companies, and has been involved with halal sector for over 20 years. We see a quickly growing interest of Saudi traders in imports of healthy foodstuffs from this country, in particular of turkey meat, which is considered worldwide as the healthiest type of meat for healthy and everyday nutrition. Several Russian producing companies are also very interested in starting the exports of products to Saudi Arabia and have already received orders from large Saudi poultry processing and trading companies. However, the current version of GSO 993-2015 standard, the use of immobilization with electric current during the slaughter of poultry. It is very important to consider that with regards to turkeys, requirement is very difficult to fulfill. Turkey is a large bird. It weighs over 20 kg. Some males weigh 25 kg, which is actually comparable to a lamb. And during this process of slaughtering without electrical immobilization, the production lines can be significantly damaged to excessive uncontrolled post-colon agitation and convulsions during the bleeding process. As a result, the birds get hematomas, wing fractures, and bleeding is contracted by muscle and internal organ spasms, which dramatically affect the quality of the finished product. In fact, making all the birds najas or haram because of the excessive content of retained blood. This fact needs the need for electric immobilization prevents us from starting shipments to Saudi Arabia in the near future. We know that the Emirates have developed a draft amendment to 993 standard, and they have approved their own country standard 993-2020, which establishes specific electric current parameters for the slaughter of turkeys based on a year and a half studies conducted in different countries of the world. So I would like to summarize my question to a very simple one. Is FDA or any other Saudi Arabian authority ready to allow use of immobilization of turkeys slaughter? Thank you. Индейки.
Коллеги, Джак или FDA, готовы прокомментировать?
Are you ready to comment on that?
Нет, Джак есть.
JC is present here, as far as I see.
So this is a question about standardization, and it's a question about is the standard going to change or not. So standardization bodies do that. The 993 so far is the GSO standard. It's all the GCC countries together developing the standard. There is a committee, which is the standardization committee for Halal under GSO, and it's the one dealing with these issues. So the question has certainly been asked many times about can we allow or not for the stunning of chicken, poultry in general. This question is about big animals like a big chicken, like turkey. But this is something that stays in two hands. The first hand, the standardization organization, which is the technical side, but also the fatwa side or the religious decision, which is also part of the committee that seeks that approval. So as accreditation, if tomorrow the standard is changed, we'll apply the standard. No problem for us.
Thank you, if you allow me.
Понятно, господин Брахим.
We got
Господин
you.
Yosef.
Mr. Yosef?
Yes, regarding this question about the 993, especially for the turkey, We do understand that Turkey is different from the poultry, and even for the stunning, something is different. Actually, at this point, it's already under a process now for studying and evaluation by SFDA. So there are special circumstances for this kind of bird. And when we have a decision for that, and we will announce, inshallah. Thank you.
Спасибо большое, коллеги.
Thank you so much, dear colleagues. With your permission, let me wrap it up. I do think that the roundtable was not just really interesting, but is even very useful. I'd like to follow up the statement by Mr. Lishmankin on many types of the products. We developed certain guides on bring our products to Saudi Arabia, and these guides are in public domain, freely accessible. You, as the participants of that event, can turn to your industrial unions and associations. Or even if you are not part of that, the experience shows that no one would be denied such an access, such an application. We as hosts are always at your assistance. We're always ready to provide high-quality answer to your questions. Dear colleagues, we'll continue being with you. We stay tuned, and colleagues from SFDA and GAC, I hope to see you in person here in Moscow and in other regions where our production sites are located. I do hope that very soon the ban on travel would be lifted, and we'll see you not online but offline as well. And it doesn't matter where, in what country we can meet. I'm always glad to see you. You're very much welcome to Russia. So we keep in touch. Turn to us. Thank you so much.